and welcome back to the OnlyAccies channel, and welcome to our first month review. This is the review for the month of August. We're going to be breaking down all the big talking points, giving our own opinions on things like player of the month. We'll give our manager rating, and of course, we'll start with our rating overall for the month. And of course, as always, you'll be Brandon and David. Gentlemen, how are we?
Very good.
All right. Watching the Scotland game, so can't be any worse than us. So
yeah, I should say, if you do hear any random screaming or anything, we are all watching the Scotland game at the same time. So we'll start off with, like I said, with our month rating. Out of 10, we're going to do it, and we'll do the same for the manager later on. Brandon, I'll start with you. Not a great month for results. We obviously had the Derby win, which has helped a little bit. But if you were to rate our month out of 10, what are you giving
it? A very, very generous one.
Okay, no, absolutely. Okay, fair enough. We'll come back and circle around about why it's a 1. David, what's your rating out of 10 for the month?
To be fair, you're laughing, but it's hard to argue with that. I would be an even more generous 3.
Right, okay. I agree with David, actually. Mine's is 3 as well, but again, very generous. Brandon, any specific reasons as to why you gave it just a 1?
We've been awful. We've only won one game out of every game we've played. They've been there for the taking. Motherwell, how we bet them, fuck knows. They've been the worst team in the league, even worse than us, and they were better than us, and we managed to sneak a win. That result 100% papered over the cracks. Ryan Fulton's getting applauded as this almighty hero as of recently because he's getting most stats, most saves, but that just says more about our defence and midfield. The fact that we're leaking all these shots because Ryan Fulton's still pushing. We need another keeper, and Accies are just plodding them this way to try and distract the fact that we need another keeper, and they're not wanting to sign another keeper. But as I say, we're shite, so I cannot give any more than a 1. None of the new signings have been done anything whatsoever for me at all, apart from a Dolphin scoring a header. There's been nothing.
Yeah. See, I would agree with pretty much everything you've said there. I do agree the Motherwell result papered over the cracks, but that's a big reason as to why I gave him the 3 rather than the 1. Is it may have papered the cracks, but you know, to win a derby is still great, you know, and so I don't think I could go lower than a 3 purely based on the derby result, even though I do agree we played terribly and it papered the cracks. But a derby win is a derby win, and of course it got us the first 3 points. David, is there anything that's jumped out to you specifically this month as to why you've gave it a 3?
Like I say, everything Brandon said I agree with on his basis of a 1. I would give them an extra point for the Derby win. Like I say, you always want to beat the rivals. Mm-hmm. But the other point is without sounding like a fanny, but obviously the results have been shit. We've lost the games, but we've competed. So it's not that we've been pumped by St Mirren and Ross County. Granted, those ones hurt a lot more when you've been beat 1-0. We've still been in it, and it's the same every year. I mean, for as long as we're in the SPL, apart from the Alec Neil year, we never start the season well. It's the typical selection bingo. I mean, you get Ronnie Hughes starting the first game of the season, probably never play another game the rest of the year. The same old things. The difference between us is that it's hard to believe we will get better. Other teams around us, if they don't, they start panicking. So, yeah, a 3, just that we're not the bottom of the league. We're not the worst ones so far. Because, like Brandon said, I do believe the only reason we won that Motherwell game was purely because how shit Motherwell were.
And you touched on a really important point there, is selection bingo, something Hamilton fans have named quite aptly, and we've been victim to for a good few years. Brandon, I know you've spoke about it in interviews afterwards, and you've kind of pointed out people like Andy Winter, who's playing out on the left. Do you think that we're maybe feeling the effects of selection bingo more this year, given the quality of the squad than we have maybe previous years?
I know 100%. We're well renowned for this selection bingo pish, and this year when you're doing selection bingo, when your average age of your bench is probably 19, it's just not gonna. It's gonna have a even bigger detrimental effect. every year we start off so poor because of the whole selection bingo process. You'd think year by year you'd fucking learn.
Yeah.
Because, like we've said previously, who knows where we'd finish if we had a good start.
And something that is giving the manager, I'm sure, a headache, but not in a good way, is our lack of goal scoring. We've played 4 games, scored 2 goals. One of them was a deflection, Scott Martin P roller, and the other one was a last minute header from Makima Dolphin. So I'm quite happy to hold my hands up and say how wrong I was. I said at the start of the season, I got a bit of flack for it. We don't need a striker. I don't think we needed an attacker. We had Augie, Moyo, young Andy Winter, Tunde obviously coming in. But after watching the games, I'm happy to say I'm absolutely wrong. We need a striker. We're not going to score with these guys. Will they hopefully kick on late in the season? Of course, I hope that, but it doesn't look like it right now. David, a lot of people calling for Tunde Owolabi to get his chance. Going into that next game against Livingston, you've got Augie, Moyo, Tunde, and Andy Winter. Who gets the pick for you?
It definitely isn't Augie. Because we've said this a few times in various podcasts, how last season it was the Rangers game in November was the first time I noticed he actually turned up.
Yeah.
If anything, he's
Penalty.
Shut up. Oh, well done. I'm now buffering as well.
I'm not even at that yet. There's a corner in mine and I'm watching it on Sky. We just can't waste any more time. I mean, it gives me flashbacks of the days in, I think it was the first division or second division, when we used to waste an hour with like Graham Jones. You know what I mean? You just, as a guy up front, you just know we're not scoring while he's on the park. It just doesn't look interested. Moyo looks like he needs a partner. He performs and puts the effort in. But if you're looking for one guy up front to score goals, Moyo's not the man. Owolabi, was it St Mirren? He made a...
Yes!
I've not even seen it.
You're vast. I'm watching it. It's not even happened yet.
Well, Scotland won, Israel 0, Ryan Christie with a penalty.
A brief appearance against St Mirren, but in the games where we've been chasing it, match fitness on that, he can come on and make an impact. He's not been getting the game time. I mean, there was a squad he wasn't even in. I honestly have no idea who I would choose because I don't see any of them making an impact. Obviously, something needs to change and something will need to click.
Yeah, and you mentioned there that it doesn't look as if we're going to get him to in. Well, that was pretty much cemented. Brian Rice gave an interview with Lanarkshire Live Sports saying people like Will Collar, Brian Easton, and David Templeton getting back to full fitness would be like 3 new signings. And listen, it's the same that we get every year whenever we get players injured. We don't need to sign any. Yeah, exactly. We don't need to sign anybody because we've got these players coming back from injury. We do need to sign people in a few positions. Brandon, we can kind of get from your reaction what you think about that there. What are your thoughts when you read that? When you
every single year at the same point, whether it be just after coming to the end of January or coming to the end of mainly so the end of the just after the summer transfer window, they say the same without a doubt all the time. Yeah. We don't need to sign people. We've got blah de blah coming back. It's fucking. They leave it too late every time. Like I says, why can they not realise that they're leaving it too late all the time? Touching on the striker situation, you need a striker to compete with them. They're trying to force Andy Winter on. There's always certain youth players that try and force in the first team. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I.e. Lewis Ferguson, they forced him in. He worked a treat. So they hit or miss with these youth players they force in. Andy Winter's not ready. Situation with Tunde, you've got a boy that scored 35 goals, and he's not even getting on at all. Just confusing. They need to sign a centre back. Easton's coming back, but if you fucking read the fine print of Brian Rice's interview, he says Easton coming back in a few months. A few months?
Yeah.
What? So he's got to be a new signing in December?
It could be dead and buried by then.
No, I mean, you're out. It doesn't matter if we're Hamilton Accies. We always fucking stay up. No, you need to fucking. It's got to be too late. You need a centre back in. You need a striker in. You need a fucking keeper in. Ryan Fulton's still pish. And they need a creative midfielder in. To go back to the actual main point, his interview was scripted pish and we need signings.
And you mentioned there that it's constantly getting changed. Something that will need to be changed is, of course, the left-back position. Scott McMahon picked up a red card. 2 yellows. In my opinion, I don't think he needed the second. Don't think he needed to commit that foul. But at the end of the day, we're without him. Kyle Monroe came on and impressed. I liked the look of him. Didn't have a huge amount of time, but I thought he seemed lively. A lot of fans seemed to agree online, which was kind of good to see. But we're going into Livingston. Do you start Brandon Kyle Monroe,
No.
or do you play someone at position? What's your plan there for that position?
No, you don't start him. When that red card happened, Maitland, McDonald, Gray, Rice would have been like that. Yes, PR stunt is coming. That sub was happening whether he gets sent off or not. Maybe not for Scott McMahon, but it was
100%.
happening. It was happening. And when that happened, yes, social media will be booming despite if we get beat 8-0 or no.
I would love to know how many Accies players have made their debuts against the Old Firm.
Yeah.
But what you said, Ben, fair play, came on and he done all right. You know what I mean? Like, he held his own. That's his fucking competitive debut. He was playing junior football last year. I know people will make the argument, oh, but so was Daz, so was this person. He's not ready. You cannot start him, in my opinion.
Who would you start then in that position?
Hodgson left, Hamilton and Want centre, and Adolphin right.
Yep, I can't disagree with that, David.
100% the same.
To what we've got, that's really all we can do. I was really hoping by now we would have another centre back in so we could revert back to a free to back with the 2 wing backs. I was really hoping by now we would have that. I think we're more comfortable at that and we'll pick up more points.
We're kind of moving on to our most disappointing player, someone that we were picking out who we expected maybe big things from and did not came at the start of the season. David, I'll start with you. Your most disappointing player and just a little short bit on why.
There's like we've said before we started recording, there's so many to choose from when you're getting beat. But for me, it would need to be Ogbo and Templeton because, like we say, we don't score a lot of goals. The guys that create like Templeton and score like Ogbo, you get such high hopes for. You need them to perform. 2 of them haven't turned up in the slightest. Like not looking interested at all. And like I say, those are where our hopes lie this season. So if they 2 aren't playing, it's not looking good, and they're not playing. So yeah, it'd be hard to argue with they 2, I think.
Fair enough, Brandon.
So it is like what David said. They're spot on. Most disappointing so far, I'd say Scott Martin. Following on for my good friend Stephen Naylor.
If you haven't seen that video, go back and watch it. It's very honest and he's great.
I love Scott, but he's been fucking horrendous. Obviously Naylor touched on the whole Gogic scenario because Gogic isn't there today. The dirty work, that's why Scott Martin looks so bad. But it's even simple stuff that he's doing, like 5-yard passes and that. Yeah. It's awful. Selection bingo comes into it again because he's been asked to play several different positions against Rangers. He's played right mid.
Yeah.
But no, I had so much promise for him this season. I don't know why. I think it was more so in my head thinking people overrated Gogic too much and they didn't pick up on what Martin done so much. So I was building him up to hopefully having a really good season. I don't know if it's the people that's around him that's not making him tick, but nothing compared to what I thought he was going to be or what I think of a player that he is. So for most disappointing, there's been players that have been a lot worse in my opinion, but for most disappointing, I'd say Scott Martin.
I absolutely agree with all 3 choices, to be honest. I wanted to pick a different player just to make it a little bit more varied. So I've actually gone with David Moyle. And the reason I've gone with David Moyle is, of course, he only scored 2 goals last season, but there were 2 big goals. And throughout, I mean, we said it on the podcast, throughout the summer when we were off, the way he was training, you know, when he was putting stuff on his Instagram, the man was working hard, and you can't deny that he looks as if he has worked hard, but he hasn't started the season well. And I think the reason I've gave him most disappointing is because he's bigged up so much by the club and by the fans, you expect him to at least carry that onto the pitch a little bit. So, I mean, he's the face of the kit launch, him and Sean Want, who we'll go into, I'm sure, in a second. He's the face of the kit launch. He's been interviewed on Sky before the Rangers games. Certain fan pages online are bigging up to be, to be something he's not. And I think that kind of got to me a little bit at the start of the season. And I said to David that I reckon he'll score 6, 7, 8 goals this season. And by the looks of it, he's not even going to touch that. So I'd say most disappointing for something I expected after the summer, David Moyle.
I think the point that we're making, though, with the 4 choices we've said is none of these guys are bad players. The most disappointing is these are the guys that you need to perform, and these are the guys you're expecting the performance. There are worse players out there.
Absolutely.
I mean, we'll go into that when we talk about the signings. There's guys that aren't going to play. You just know this. There's worse players in that team. But disappointing because you need these guys. We only have a few top performers in a team where we are, and they're not performing. So it's not that they're bad players. It's just you've got high hopes for them. And like I say, if these are the guys no clicking, then it's not going to click for the team.
100%.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. But to go into that player of the month, we're listing this. Who's our player of the month? Positivity, Brandon. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, we've all chosen the same player.
Aye.
%.
Sean Want, who I think has been outstanding this month. Despite being on obviously disappointing losses, I think the man has threw himself at every single ball that's came, has led the team as a captain, and I think he should be the captain if Brian Easton's out. He is my player of the month, and I'm assuming the two of you agree.
He's always been on the sort of fringe, never really got his chance. He's been really seen as a spice boy, just there to fill the numbers. But this season, he's apart. We've been hammered each game, but he just looks very, despite all his defeats, he looks very comfortable.
Yeah.
He's bossing people about. He's commanding. It's just good to see because he's been our best player of the month. Know that it's been a hard option for us to pick because everybody's been so bad.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily saying that Sean Want has been phenomenal, right? Because he's been good, but it's more so because, not to be a fucking negative bastard, it's more so because everybody's been so bad that he's looked like a different level.
Yeah.
He's been good. He's not been fucking Scotland Cup like fucking Naylor says. But my best player of the month would be Sean Want.
Yeah. And David, Sean Want?
Totally agree. The point that Brandon made, it's no that it's no been like a unbelievable string of performances, but when you're playing the way that we are and we're working with what we've got, all you kind of hope for is 100% effort and commitment, and that's totally what he's done. Because like I say, there's games where you know we're beaten, but he still puts in all the tackles, he commands players around him. So like I say, it is that there's not much to choose with, but you can never argue with the levels of commitment, and Accies fans will always be fond of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we've rated our month. We gave our player of the month, our most disappointing, but now it comes to the main man, Brian Rice. Out of 10, I have a funny feeling it's not going to be good for him, any of us. We'll start, David, with you this time.
The only thing, I don't even know if I can give him a 2. The only thing I was giving him a 2 for is he changed the game in the Motherwell game. Motherwell had brought on, I think, 2 extra strikers. They were leaving ourselves really exposed, and we exploited that with the changes that we made. But I'm sure, and somebody can comment if this is right or not, but I'm sure there was an interview after it and he said that was boozling.
He said yes. I was going to mention that. He did say that he's got 2 great coaches behind him, George and Boozy, and Boozy had a big say on the substitutions. So
I'll give him the 2, but the thing that's given that isn't actually his doing.
Brandon?
I've got to give him a generous 1. The 1 is, I was actually going to give him a 2 until you made the point that it was Boozy's sub.
Yeah.
I'm giving him the 1 solely for the sub changed it, and the fact that his signings have been pish. They've not made any difference whatsoever. We've got ready players. The players we've replaced them with and brought in have done nothing. His team choice is constantly changing. He's not got a set in stone team, which you really need in this league, or even remotely set in stone team. He's already hitting out with the cannon-esque pattern of fucking new, and players come back for injuries or new signings.
Yeah.
Which is absolute bullshit. He's saying David Templeton's going to be like a new signing. He's been playing games, so how's he a new signing? He's out for months, so how's that a new signing? Will Collar, fair enough. But is he going to make a massive difference? No. He's getting a generous one, but improvement is really needed.
Yeah, I think I don't really need to say much, to be honest. I think you guys have pretty much smashed it there. I'm going to give him the 2. And again, that's very, very generous because, again, David, I'm glad you brought. I was gonna mention it myself, but I didn't know if it really played a big part. But after kind of hearing you speak there, man, I have to give it a 2, but a generous 2 at that. The Motherwell game helps him. But again, a lot of that was down to Boozy. And that brings us to our end of our August review. You've heard our thoughts, but we want to know yours. So go ahead, talk to us on social media. All of that linked in the description. Of course, drop down to the comments. Give your player of the month, your manager rating, your month rating, all that stuff down there or over on our social medias. Thank you too, guys, for joining me again today. And we'll be back for a preview for the Livingston game. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you again soon.